Good evening. Hi there. I'm Deanne Battle, and this is the Composite, a late night talk show. And I just realized what I did. Funny. Oh. So I've never posted a comment like before going live. Or at least I thought that was what I was doing. I actually titled this broadcast with my Cash App. Classy. We keep it classy here. Holy crap. Let me see if I can change that super quick. Oh no. That's what it's called, folks. All right. So I haven't even provided entertainment, and I have already hit you up for money. So I must be a genius. I must be great at this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pin that comment. Okay. So, excuse me. This is the Composite, and I just realized about 2 hours before I logged on that the show is almost a year old, and we're in season 3, so I work quickly. But yes, we are in season 3, and the show is almost a year old. It will be a year old on Friday, so I just wanted to acknowledge that because it is May 1st, and pat myself on the back just a little bit for hanging in there, for showing up. This doesn't come naturally to me. It's not the easiest thing to do, but this is the year. This book is getting done, and I find that forcing myself to read and to share it creates touch points of accountability. And this is a story that is going to be included in the short story collection that I'm going to finish by the end of the summer. Yes. And so I've been working on this story in stops and starts, but I really just wanted to come into it with fresh eyes. And so I've shared it with my writing group, or one of my writing groups. And so I'll read from the current draft, not the whole thing. So the idea is that I will push myself to share my fiction, but slowly over time. In order to graduate from my MFA program, I did have to give I think it was a 15 or 20 minute reading, and that was a lot. And so I'm going to start out with like 10 minutes and then, excuse me, try to work my way up to 15 or 20. I think from most authors, I think that's, standard when you get to the point where you actually have a book on a shelf and people want you to read. I think they'll ask you to read maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe 5 if there are a bunch of authors. But, you get more leeway, obviously, if you're the main person. So anywho, like I said, this is from my story collection, and I do have a working title, but I've been looking at some titles of novels and stuff that are coming out now, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds a little similar. I don't know how authors deal with that. It does have a working title. Anywho, this is one of the more bizarre stories, and it is entitled Nat Turner's Zombie Slave Rebellion of Doom. All right. Nat Turner's Zombie Slave Rebellion of Doom. Ross stooped to double knot his shoelaces, a banal activity in the face of what he came to do, but he wanted to be ready in case he had to run. Ross had a feeling the situation would get ugly, fast. He fiddled with the press pass around his neck, It granted him early access to Holt's Halls of Curiosities, formerly known as the Golden Ticket Amusement Park. Merrill Holt, the eccentric billionaire, what other kind is there, right, had bought several failing amusement parks sprinkled throughout Ohio and Pennsylvania. He wanted to reimagine the amusement park for the 21st century. Holt wanted to make it more upscale and hike up the ticket prices. He hired the African-American conceptual artist Trousseau to redesign the rides and attractions as a series of installations. When Holt's Hall of Curiosities was still Golden Ticket, they would have Fright Night every year for Halloween. Trousseau decided to keep that tradition and convert all of the rides and attractions to Halloween-themed takes on American history. The Nat Turner zombie slave rebellion of doom was shrouded in mystery. Ross saw two buildings. The first one was a life-size version of a plantation. It was kind of off-white, like a coffee-stained tooth. There were two fake and bloody handprints on the front door. Staggered behind the faux plantation was an equally unremarkable recreation of slave quarters. This building was little more than a shack, dingy and low to the ground. It had no windows. Ross had been a journalist at the progressive online magazine Just Cause for 5 years. He was the only person on staff that hadn't written a cover story. This was his big chance, and he was hungry for it. Ravenous. "Ross, I think you're ready for this," Bennett said. Bennett was the founder and editor-in-chief. Ross sat in Bennett's office 3 days ago, listening to him drone on and on about how upsetting this Nat Turner fiasco was. "Surely, as a black man in America, you're disturbed," Bennett said. Ross looked behind him. Bennett kept a ceiling-to-floor portrait of him shaking hands with Bernie Sanders behind his desk. It was outsized compared to everything else in the room. It was outsized compared to the whole damn office. Bennett had the windows open and the sun shined on he and Bernie. Ross squinted from the glare. Yes, of course, Bennett. It's outrageous." Ross knew what to say. He always knew what to say in polite company, as his mother called it. However, it hadn't really gotten him anywhere thus far. Here he was, already 36, and no closer to a Pulitzer than when he interned at Rolling Stone in college. "Exactly. I know Trousseau is about transgressive art, but Nat Turner, I would think he would want to depict slavery in a more uplifting way. I mean, I don't need to tell you, with the way things are now, this administration, y'all probably have it the worst." Bennett smiled at Ross. He was proud of his colloquialism. Ross understood intuitively that Bennett wanted a hit piece on the Nat Turner attraction. He was sending the only black guy on staff to make this happen, and Ross would write it. He didn't give a fuck either way. Truthfully, he thought Trousseau might be onto something. There was enough slavery porn on television and in movies. Why shouldn't this brother capitalize on it? At the same time, he wasn't going to let art stand in between him and greatness. If he had to take down Trousseau or whoever else stood in his way, so be it. At least he would finally be able to take pride in himself if he got enough clicks for this Halloween gag. At least Ross would finally stop hearing his mother tell people that his parents paid to send him to Morehouse only for him to become a blogger. Ross surveyed the two crowds gathering outside the amusement park in the parking lot. Other than Trousseau, it seemed as if he was the only black person there. On his right was the liberal crowd. They were pissed because Trousseau was trivializing slavery and reopening old wounds. They had to make Trousseau see how he was demeaning his people. This stunt wouldn't promote intersectionality or understanding. To the left of Ross were the right-wingers. They wanted the entire park shut down because the attraction was a distortion of history which glorified white genocide. And it was clearly yet another liberal ploy to erase white people from America. It was 8:55 a.m. The park opened at 9. "Babe, did you bring my charger?" Shelley said. A year ago, Shelley was an intern at The Just Cause. Now she was a staff writer for her dad and Ross's girlfriend. Shelley had already written 2 cover stories for the homepage, most notably the expo that Ross had originally pitched to Bennett. It's in the front. It's in my bag in the front of my laptop, Ross said. He debated with himself on whether or not to bring her on this assignment. He told himself he loved her, enough times to believe it, but she was also competition. In the end, he needed the ride, and it would be nice to leave quickly if the situation deteriorated. He watched her open the passenger door and reach into his knapsack. Shelley had on faded jeans and a light fleece jacket. Her sandy blonde ponytail fell over the bag. Morbidly, he hoped some of her hair got caught in the zipper. He wasn't sure why. 6 months into their relationship, and Bennett still didn't know. Thanks to Ross. I'm skipping ahead a bit here. Ross decided to start with the slave quarters. It was further from the parking lot and the plaintive crowds. The external facade of the building was fairly standard for a slave cabin, unremarkable. Ross could only remember seeing a picture of one in an illustrated edition of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn that he read in 6th grade. Jim stood on the porch with a straw hanging out of his oversized mouth, promising slovenly, imbecilic dialogue. He didn't remember which scene it was. He didn't even finish the book. His mother wrote the paper for him. Ross heard the faint groans inside. Not loud, but consistent. Every step he took, getting closer to the entrance, heightened his misgivings about doing this story in the first place. Ross came upon a series of turnstiles. Each had an attendant in a burgundy polo shirt and light brown khakis. Sorry, let me do that again. Ross came upon a series of turnstiles. Each had an attendant in a burgundy polo shirt and light brown khakis. They all had the same spiel as they scanned the tickets. Welcome to Halt's Halls of Curiosities, formerly known as Golden Tickets, Halloween tribute entitled Nat Turner's Zombie Rebellion of Doom. This exhibit is interactive. There are actors dressed as members of the formerly living. These actors do not speak, but they will make noise. Moaning, groaning, and gentle wailing are all a part of the ambiance. The actors will come close to you. They may even brush up against you slightly, but they will not touch you. If at any point the experience becomes too intense, you may follow the yellow arrows to your left, exit, and alleviate any emotional discomfort. There is no eating, drinking, touching paintings or sculptures, or flash photography. Welcome again. Enjoy Nat Turner's Zombie Rebellion of Doom. Ross hadn't expected that crossing this threshold would be so mundane. He could be headed into the MoMA or going to ride the teacups. He walked through the turnstile and gave the attendant a tight-lipped grin and a nod. Knew this was a bullshit assignment, he mumbled to himself. When he walked inside, the lighting was electric blue. It took his eyes a few seconds to adjust. It was like he was stuck in a Hype Williams video from the MTV of his childhood. He thought that might make good copy. then became self-conscious about dating himself. Some of the other patrons hovered around the entrance, preferring the limbo of this deep-sea entryway as opposed to the black abyss several steps in front of them. Ross decided to get it over with. He walked forward. He moved as far into the darkness as he could. All of a sudden, he heard a whir and two bolted doors opened. Excuse me, one to his left and one to his right. The door on the left opened into a bare room with pink flashing lights, while the door on the right opened into a room that looked like a barn. There were a few bales of hay, and the lighting looked natural. Ross went to the right. Okay, that is what I'm reading from that draft. Oh, hey! And one person joined. Thank you. All right. So I'm just read from a draft of a story that our one guest has heard from before. That was the first third of Nat Turner's Zombie Rebellion of Doom. All right. And sharing fiction is not, in my opinion, not easy. But I'm pushing myself this year to do the hard things. And so we do the hard things, which is share our stories. And if people are so inclined, ask them to share dollars with artists because rent is due and other bills are due. And I'm like, okay, I've been working on this craft for years and years, for the better part of my life. Writing is the joy of my life, and I should get paid for it. And I'm not currently, but closed mouths don't get fed. Hi, I just see the hi in the comments box. Thank you so much for hopping in. But yes, as my Nana, and I'm sure many other Nanas, grandmas, and grandmothers, so on and so forth, babas, yayas, have said before them, right? A closed mouth does not get fed. And your girl is going to eat. So I'm going to come on here and share drafts. So it's they're imperfect words, it's imperfect prose, but this is where I am with it. So hopefully this will be like a behind the scenes. We'll see. But yeah, that's all I had for this episode of The Composite, Season 3, Episode 13 already. So here is to consistency. Here is to showing up, to do the hard things, to attempt to do the hard things. Being a role model for the children's. Wu-Tang is for the kids. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night.